Hello. Hi,
Hi,
how are you?
fine,
Hello.
thank you. Mhm. We have issues about your applications. It's not in the system because they lost the mails. I myself, we have asked to resubmit the whole application package because they could not find it. Some have copies that they can resubmit, some do not have extra copies for the original documents. And in this time, like pandemic, it has a lot harder to gather all documents together. And it is affecting our ability to focus to our work, affecting our mental health and emotions. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that in some cases applications have been misplaced, and I will tell you and be forthright about this that because of the disruption that has been caused by COVID-19, that it's put obviously some real pressure on our operations, but that we are endeavoring to reach out to people as much as possible to try and minimize that disruption, to try and make it better. One of the ways in which we are doing that is by providing people with acknowledgments of receipt. And I know, Vilma, at the outset, you raised this as an issue. We may come to it, but we are really doubling down and we are accelerating the process of writing to people who submitted applications, including in the caregiver class, to try and let you know if you have your application has been received, because that's one of the ways in which you can just alleviate that uncertainty. Like people just want to know, is the application received? So that's a priority for us. We're making progress on that. And in those cases where the application has been lost, obviously our intent is to try and get you back into the system as quickly as possible. And my office will support individuals as much as we can to try and get you back in the queue. I know it's very. I know it's this again. This is one of those realities that has been part of the COVID-19 reality. But my promise to you is that we are going to find a way to get you back into the queue and processed as quickly as possible.
But Minister, don't you have that, the express entry, wherein the applicants can download, upload documents and forms? Don't you have anything like that for this kind of program? So it's a lot easier for everybody. So there will be no issue of, missing documents or applications in the mailbox.
You're right, Vilma, and I promise you, we're getting there. We have started moving more digital, so we took our citizenship process and we have
Yeah.
moved it digitally. We are moving our express entry processes online. We're moving our visas online, and we are looking to do that right across the board. And I envision a day when this will be true too of the caregiver pilot program, so that we will be able to store it on our servers and then not have to worry about filing new paper applications. And in the meantime, we talk about this every day, every week. Are we notifying people? Are we acknowledging receipt of their applications? Where applications have been misplaced or lost, we want to make sure that we are in contact with those individuals so we can get them back into the system as quickly as possible, get them in the queue, because we know how important it is to provide certainty, so that people can just have that sense of comfort of knowing that their application is being looked at. I think most people, when I speak to them, Vilma, they understand that the pandemic has caused delay. Like no one is surprised by that. No one is shocked by that. Everybody, had to really take a step back from work, and we had to figure out the way that we were going to set up our operations remotely and virtually. But it will give people confidence if at least they know that we have the application and that it's being looked at, and that there is a general time frame within which they can expect an answer on that. And that is my commitment to you, is to keep working to that goal, and hopefully to transition all of our lines of business into digital and virtual space so that we can be even more efficient than we were pre-COVID.
Because the caregivers feels that they're being left behind because the sponsorship, the family sponsorship, the international students, everything is being addressed, but the caregiver program, they feel that nobody is listening to them. So what is your comment on that?
Good thing I am here listening to you right now.
But listening and action is different.
No, for sure. But I think all good plans start with listening. And so that's why, Vilma, I wanted to come and take this call. I know that the best place to start is to listen to the community, to identify those issues, and then to take those ideas away, and to then turn it into action. I agree with you about that. It's not just about listening; it is about action. And I will also tell you that our government, and in particularly even right now under the pandemic, we have a strong track record of listening and then acting and delivering. And that's true of this program. We have consistently reached out, tried to improve it. I talked about some of the ways in which we did that, lowering LMIA fees, making it more flexible so that caregivers can live in a home of their own, trying to show flexibility in other areas of the program. I am listening right now, and we are going to take these ideas away and try to get some concrete results for you.
Thank you. And I would like to call Francia. Go ahead, Francia.
Thank you, Ms. Vilma. Good evening, Minister. Good evening, everyone. My name is Francia Rafalio. It is my privilege to speak on behalf of all the caregivers who have been on implied status like myself and have been waiting for the result of their permanent residency application. So there is a massive backlog in the caregiver program. Many had submitted their in Canada permanent residence application under the first and second batch of the interim in 2019, got the AOR, but have not received any update since then. We have been on implied status since last year, and our health card and SIM have since expired. We have tried following up through web form and even called IRCC, but have not had any success. In fact, we've been attempting to email our office to inquire about our progress. I have personally, along with some other caregivers, made a carol for you last Christmas, as well as holding a peaceful rally in front of your office, hoping that you would consider to hear our plea. We understand that due to this pandemic, there is expected delays and regular proceedings do not apply anymore. But we would be so thankful if after this meeting, we would hear about some progress in our applications. The least the IRCC can do is to give us an open work permit. By this, caregivers would have the freedom to work anywhere they want to and not just tied up under abusive and some maltreating employers. We are aware that you value family reunification, and we salute you on that, sir. We are really praying that you can help us in any way possible to expedite the backlog in applications. We know you hear us about how much we desire to be reunited with our family. It would be so amazing if we didn't have to miss any more of our children's or our husband's birthday or anniversary, Christmas, and other celebrations. We are looking forward to positive response to our application for permanent residency. Thank you for your consideration and hard work and diligence, Mr. Marco Mendicino.
Salamat. Thank you very much, Francia, for those very eloquent remarks. And I'm going to try and respond to them very specifically. Just on family reunification, to me, every single one of these cases, including every single person on this call, means something very important to me. Every one of you do. I want to make sure that you know that, and that we're going to keep working hard to try and resolve these cases. And that isn't just about you on the call, that's about the caregiver community generally. And it's one of the reasons why, even though we're in the midst of a pandemic, I felt very strongly, our government felt very strongly, about creating pathways to reunite families. Even though we've had to put in place restrictions at the border to protect everybody from the spread of the disease, we're still finding ways to reunite families. In fact, we have reunited tens of thousands of families. And the caregiver program does allow, as you know, for an opportunity to sponsor your immediate family members, as we do in other pathways. That is another reflection of our commitment to family reunification. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I totally hear you on backlog. And, you know, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, was to get a real sense of what you're experiencing, which is that, you know, in some cases you have gotten an acknowledgement, but you haven't seen status or progress. And in other cases, you have not even gotten acknowledgement at all. And so, as I said earlier, I'm going to take that feedback to my office, to my department, and we're going to try and improve there. And the last thing is that even as you wait for a final answer on your application as a candidate under the caregiver program, I hear you loud and clear about wanting to be able to contribute to our economy elsewhere and creating flexibility. And this is something that I want to double check, because I have introduced a policy change that allows for people who are here on visitor visas to apply for an open work permit as long as they have a job offer. And so there may be a solution there for you and for others, so that as you're waiting for a final answer, or as you are transitioning perhaps from one employer to another and you're waiting for an LMIA, we may also have additional support for you by making it eligible for an open work permit. And so I thank you for raising all three of those points.
Thank you so much, sir, and we're really looking for that. Looking forward for that. Thank you.
Yeah, Minister, actually, yesterday at the farm, one of the farm workers, she said that she came here as a visitor, and because the border is closed, she had an opportunity to apply for work permit and asked one of the employers in Ontario to give her an LMIA, and so she got the job. She doesn't have to leave Canada anymore because of that policy, I think.
Well, that's Vilma. Thank you. That's exactly the kind of ways in which we are trying to support caregivers and others. We want to be flexible. We want to be creative, and if it means that, you know, we have to modify our policies temporarily to provide that additional support, and I think, you know, our record on that is very clear. We will do that. I will authorize those changes where it will provide support. Then we should look at this issue as well for the caregivers to see if it exists, and if it exists, if there is an opportunity, then Vilma, we will share it with you and the community. But I just want to be double sure.
Okay. So I would like to call Mary Ann Macapagal. She works long hours, so she just came in. So Mary Ann, would you like to say something?
Yeah, good evening, Minister, and good evening, Ma'am Vilma and everyone. Thank you for having me here and to speak in behalf of the caregivers.
Thank
Hello.
you. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank
Yes,
you,
no,
yeah.
salamat. Thank you very much,
So,
Marianne.
We would like to request or appeal from your good office to help all the vulnerable caregivers because some of them are not allowed to go out during this pandemic. So, and also the caregivers who got infected by this virus and got there from their employers. So we would like to appeal to give us to give all those vulnerable caregivers an open work permit. That's all. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Marianne. And this is the last question that I was getting at with Francia, who raised whether or not there might be open work permit opportunities. I just as I say, I don't want to give a definitive answer, but I do want to go back and research this with the department and see what policies we have put in place to try and create some flexibility in the open work permit market. So I hear you. I know that it's been a real challenge. Let me get back to you on that specific question, and we will share it with Vilma, with Francia, with you, with others, so that we can see what's available.
So, Minister,
Thank you so
the
much.
caregivers, when they're applying for permanent residence in Canada, they have to put in the open work permit application together with the PR. And then that's what they're waiting for. That's what Francia is referring to. But in the case of Marianne, we have it was from the previous minister, Hussein. They have this open work permit for vulnerable migrant workers. And caregivers also fall into that category. And Marianne, she was infected by the COVID from the employer, and she wanted to apply for PR for open work permit,
Yes.
and she don't have all those proof to support the application. So for them to be able to apply for this open work permit for vulnerable, that's what she's preparing to.
Yeah. So I think the best thing in this particular instance, Vilma, is to have her reach out to my staffer's email, Chris, who's on the line. He's put his email there in the chat box, I think, or Vilma, you have his email. You can share it with individuals, and if they want to send the details, then my office will look very carefully at them.
So my question, Minister, is are you going to open the interim pathway a little bit longer?
Yeah, I've taken a note of that. That's one of the other things that I know that you said at the beginning, which is to extend it for a little bit longer. And I want to make sure that I seek some advice from my department about that and see how it fits into our current plan. But look, I know exactly what you're advocating for, Vilma. I appreciate that you're saying to me basically, look, by creating a slightly longer pathway, a horizon, that this will be good for the community. It will be good for Canadians. It will allow us to support families during this very challenging time. And I will get back to you on that as well.
Thank you. And Nicole, do you want to add some more?
Yes, if I could. I just wanted to make one final point. I do have some, and I'm trying to stay away from specific cases just because of confidentiality issues. But I do have issues with caregivers who also fall under the essential worker category. They either were on an open work permit or somehow they've lost their status or are trying to get back into status, and they've been working in, like, for example, Sunnybrook Hospital in the emergency room, like cleaning COVID patient rooms, and they're either without status or in precarious status and just very stressed and wondering what's going to happen to them if they don't meet the requirements under the caregiver program, if they have to go home. One of them said to me that she feels like she's just a casualty of COVID and no one cares about her file, and she's just working here, risking her life every day. She thought she had COVID and she was just very depressed. So I know we have a pathway for other categories, but it would just be helpful, or I don't know how we could help those caregivers.
Nicole, I know that you're trying to be sensitive and respectful, but I wonder if maybe you could reach out to my staff and just mention this one case in particular, or if there are others that fall into it, and we can set up a separate discussion just about that case, because we do have a pathway for other individuals who don't have status. And I just want to take a look at the particulars of this case to see whether or not there might be eligibility. It may be that there isn't, but let's discuss that in a more confidential forum where you or maybe the person is willing to come forward and provide them provide us, I beg your pardon, with their background so that we can look at it and see what options there are. But I am very moved by the fact that people have put themselves into jeopardy by going to work at hospitals, long-term care homes, despite having status, and are just trying to give back without any guarantees of being able to stay. That's why I created the Guardian Angels program. So let's offline about that, and like I said, Chris Mazzotti's email's there, and we'll try and set something up separately, okay?
I want to
Okay,
be part
thank
of
you.
that offline meeting.
Oh, Vilma, you get access to me all the time.
I know,
You
I
get all
know.
kinds of offline
Don't tell them.
conversations.
Don't tell them. So I would like to call Miss Charm. Charm.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Minister Mendicino and Ms. Vilma and all the other caregivers who are present right now. So, my name is Charmaine and I am representing the caregiver interim batch of 2019. Caregivers who have applied for their permanent residence in 2019, most of us have already received an AOR and even eligibility. But until now, we don't have any update after that AOR or after the eligibility. Some of us doesn't have AOR at all, even though we have submitted complete documents. So it's been almost 2 years now, sir, that we have no news of our application. It is just so sad that right now we feel that we are neglected because of this situation. Um, what are the actions taken by the current administration to address this matter?
Thank you, Charmaine, and thank you for raising the issue. And it's one that I know that we've spoken about a few times tonight, namely the delays that have been caused in large part because of COVID-19. I mean, I'll say prior to the pandemic, as you may have heard from some of your other friends in the community, like we made great progress. You know, we had gotten our backlogs down, we had reduced wait times, we made the program more flexible, we made it more welcoming, and so we want to get back to that moment in time. Like, that is my commitment, as I said. And how we are going to do that is by investing the additional resources, so making sure that we have the staff that are there to look at those applications. The second way is to move it more online and make it more digital. That is something that I think that we are going to come to. And the third thing, and this is where I think in the meantime, as you are waiting for an answer, it's looking at ways. It's looking at ways that we can change our policies to provide you with additional support and flexibility, employment status, even if it's temporary, and like that's part of what I was discussing with Francia, with Nicole, and some others, Marianne, who'd raised it. Is there a way that we can show some flexibility so that people have certainty and stability around their employment opportunities and status, so that as we create that that cushion, we can really get back to bringing our backlogs down, which is our number one priority right across the board, and that is equally true of the caregiver community. Because as I said, we know what you're contributing, and we want to show that there is a path to staying in Canada.
Okay, because I got a message from your staff, so I have two questions left.
Okay.
There are caregivers who are already received their permanent residency interview last year, but because of the pandemic, it was canceled and never heard from IRCC. What do they need to do? And the second question is the most important one. Caregivers who were laid off applied for the CERB and cannot find employer after that because of the pandemic, because most of the employers also lost their jobs. That's why they were laid off. Now, due to the COVID, you know that CERB is a taxable income. And many of the caregivers are asking if this is a taxable income, so will this be counted the months that they have lost the job and yet they applied for CERB? Will this be counted on the 24 months for them to be able to qualify for the 24 months qualification for PR?
Well, I think the short answer to the last question, Vilma, is that there's no definitive answer yet. We are actively considering that, but I hope that you and everybody on the call will have seen and felt that we're taking a very compassionate and supportive approach to supporting Canadians and everybody who is in Canada. And that is included by introducing the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, the employer subsidy, the loans for small businesses, all of those supports, including tax deferrals so that people don't have to pay up front and can get a little bit of extra time to save up and find work. All of that has been driven with the focus on trying to just demonstrate to everybody that we know this is a tough time, but we are going to get through it, and we're going to get through it by giving you this emergency support. And on the specific question of what is and is not a tax, like what will be a taxable benefit in the future, you're not the first person to raise this issue. We're actively reflecting on it, and we hope to have something to say, in the future. And I don't know what the answer will be. It may be that it stays as a taxable benefit, but I understand the feedback, and I will take it back to my colleagues. And on the transitioning back to normal, what we're calling Build Back Better, our hope is that all of the employers that you worked for will be also back on their feet over the course of the next several months. We have already recovered 85% of all of the jobs that were initially lost by COVID-19. So that's encouraging. When you think about where our low point was, we've climbed 85% out of that hole. It's the last 15% of those jobs that are going to be the ones that are more challenging. And some of the sectors, right? The food industry, the hospitality industry, the airline sectors, all of the things that depend on people traveling and moving around in large crowd spaces, we still got to figure that part out. But as people get back into that rhythm and the economy comes back, our hope is that those opportunities that initially drew the caregivers here will be back.
Okay, so, and Nicole, do you have anything?
No, I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we've raised all the issues to you, Mr. Minister, and I think all the answers is in your hands. One stroke of a pen, everything is good. We're just waiting for that pen to strike down.
Salamat, Vilma, and to everybody who is on the call, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend it with me. I am honored to have had the chance to hear from you, to listen to you. We're going to take some of this feedback away, and we are going to work on something. And let's please stay in touch, especially for those individuals who have specific cases. Please reach out to my office. My staff will be in touch. We'll set something up, and we will keep working on this together. So, salamat po.
Thank you.
Mabuhay to all of the caregivers. Mabuhay Filipino. Mabuhay Canada. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Before we
Thank
all
you.
sign off, if everyone's okay, I'm going to take a quick screenshot if everyone
Sure.
wants
Okay.
to smile.
Thank you.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank
And I put my
you.
Thank
email
you.
in the chat.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
very
taking
much.
the time.
Thank you,
Thank
Nicole.
you.
Thank you, Vilma.
Thank you, Minister. Thanks. Bye.